Welcome to Mamahood After Trauma. I'm Emily, your host. Here we share strategies and inspiration to help you heal and grow with kindness and understanding. Let's dive in. This is Mamahood After Trauma. Before we dive in, I want to introduce you to something brand new. If you love the podcast and want a deeper connection to your healing, check out the monthly Peace Pack, a small trauma-informed tool delivered each month straight to your mailbox to help you find calm in the everyday. You'll also get access to our private Patreon community where mamas like you can share, support, and learn together. Sign up with the link in the show notes. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the Mamahood After Trauma podcast. I am thrilled that you have taken some time out of your busy mama schedule to tune in and listen to this episode. Today, we have the pleasure of being joined by Michele. Welcome.
Hi, Emily. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to our conversation today. So let's dive right in. Can you introduce yourself to our listeners and share how you became involved in the trauma recovery space?
Sure. So I wear many hats, I'm sure, as you probably know, and many of your listeners, your audience too. I'm a mom. I am a widow. I am a coach, consultant, ceremonialist, lots of different things that I enjoy. And I got involved in this space. Really, it started in my early 20s when I decided to go to graduate school for social work, really driven by my own experience with childhood trauma, living in a house of, pretty severe addiction and whatnot. And I think I went into that program to help others, but really I was looking to heal myself as well. So it started a long time ago, back in like 2000 in New Orleans. I was living there at the time.
Wow. And how do you help people now?
Yeah, so I have had many iterations in my career. I work as a coach primarily because it allows me to be able to work across state lines. I work with people internationally, which I love. And I have a very strong focus now in somatic or sensory motor practices, very holistic mind-body approach, and have many certifications, among them being a trauma responsive one, an ADHD certification. So I tend to work with folks who have some form of neurodivergence.
Yeah. So have you noticed a link between neurodivergence and trauma?
Yes, I'm sure you have too.
Yes, I have.
Yes.
And how does the neurodivergence connection with trauma, how does somatic practicing help those people specifically?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, Part of this I kind of had to figure out in my own journey. I diagnosed self-diagnosed ADHD in my 30s and then came to realize in conjunction, CPTSD was what I was experiencing. So I don't know, chicken or egg. All I can
Yeah.
say is, I know there's, been intergenerational trauma in my family. There's also strong ADHD genetics there. And so that was part of me trying to parse it out for myself. What I would say is that I I found, and I see this with clients, that many neurodivergent folks tend to live in a space of fight or flight, uh,
Hmm.
and so from a nervous system standpoint, you know this, I'm sure your audience does, the body keeps the score. Our processing is 80% body to brain, 20% brain to body. Everything is stored in our subconscious programming and our limbic system in our body. So about, I would say 7 years ago, that became a really big epiphany for me. And I shifted my practice and the work that I did for myself and with clients from really more cognitive, straight neuroscience types of modalities to
Hmm.
working more holistically, somatically in mind body.
Yeah, and that I think that stat that you just shared, the 80% is body mind and 20% mind body, is why a lot of neurodivergent slash trauma survivors have a hard time with cognitive based therapies, is because it is focusing on that brain body connection, and you can't heal a nervous system response cognitively.
100%. I always say you can't out talk and you can't outthink the
Exactly.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I would like to hope that the therapy space is awakening to that fact. There might be a lot of work to do yet,
Yeah.
but um, it's amazing if you have been if you went the route of therapy from childhood because of trauma or whatever, and you open the door to nervous system and somatic work, how much healing can happen
Absolutely.
when
I
you when, yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say.
Like when you move from that cognitive focus into a body focus, it's huge. So, can you share a little bit about what that shift is like for the people that you work with, or in your own personal experience?
Yeah, I could talk because it's the same. I think it started with me, and then once I realized this was such a huge transformation, then I immediately started to do this type of work with the clients. And maybe you found this too, trying different types of talk therapy or even CBT. It'd be like relief in the moment, but that
Mhm.
discharge would eventually feel like, you know, a crash, or there was more shame or guilt, or it would just churn up experiences that I didn't know what to do with it. I had all that activation running through my body.
Mhm.
Talking about it, I eventually figured out, and through the work of, some mentors who are based in the somatic world, that was re-traumatizing me.
Mhm.
And I realized that was the experience for folks, that let me say this, like when I became a coach, one of the things I really felt was just essential to someone's flourishing is that we are innately wise, capable, and whole. And I
Mhm.
am a facilitator. I don't view it as a hierarchy. I try to draw out the innate wisdom that our body holds, and that, it intuitively knows how to do. And so I really believe that doing this type of work, it helps with all of the other things that people want to get out of coaching or therapy. Like if you do regulation work, then a byproduct of that, say in the workplace, productivity is a byproduct of that. Even though you're
Yeah.
not focusing on executive functioning. It's just that you are more steady, you're more flexible, you have the ability, like I say, to hold the charge of life.
Mm-hmm.
You flow with it. And what I've seen is that people just tend to have more ability to be intentional, to pause, to be less reactive. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it translates into with our kids, because we're
Mm-hmm.
setting the example and we are modeling and co-regulating. And it's all about, like, the that old phrase, do as I say, not as I do, or you got to walk the
Yeah.
walk and talk the talk. It's like we can tell our kids one thing, but if they see us completely anxious and activated, that
Yep.
the energetic of that speaks louder than anything.
Yeah. Yeah. This is this is something that I talk about all of the time. Like you can't help your child through a meltdown or a temper tantrum while your nervous system is not calm. Your kid's going to pick up on your faking calm or your activation of your nervous system, and it's going to make it worse. It's like somebody who's angry telling you to calm down. It
Exactly.
doesn't work.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. I always
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so a lot of the work that I do with mamas is mama centric first because it has to be. You
Yes.
can't be a responsive parent if your nervous system is in reaction mode.
100%. Yes. Yes. And also, there's a lot of information. I don't know if this resonates for you, but there's a lot of information online, TikTok and Instagram. It's like nervous system means calm. And I don't think that that's what it means. I believe, and I know this is in the literature, that it means that you're flexible. It doesn't mean
Mhm.
that you're zen all the time.
No. No, it to me it means that you are aware of what your nervous system is doing. If it's doing this wavy motion, you're attuned to that and you have the tools to help yourself navigate that rather than your window of tolerance being a peephole and you're dysregulated all of the time.
Right. Right. Another thing that I see often, I wonder if you do too, but a lot of my clients, and I do tend to work with mostly women who are managing the mental load, the emotional load, the cognitive
Mhm.
load, working in and out of the house. Like, from a sociocultural factor, the systems are set up where we're just overburdened. We don't have a tribe,
Mhm.
we don't have family or connection or community. And so, I see a lot of that, like, I call it the go, go, go crash,
Yep.
where, it's like, activation, go, 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 do as much as you can, and then burnout. And it's just
Mhm.
like these extremes, right?
Yeah. Yeah, our society has been built in a way, and we've, as women, have been conditioned to believe that our our worth is in our production, our productivity,
Right.
but then our economy is such that we have to go, 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 and our kids look to us before they look to their dad, and all of these factors pile onto one another, and it puts us in a pickle, really,
No.
because we have it's almost as if we have no choice. I know we do, but it's the way that things are structured, and it puts us in a it puts us in a bad spot, really,
Yeah.
because your your nervous system needs rest.
Yes. Yes.
And if you're in that cycle of go, 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 crash, it's because your body can't do anymore.
I
You've
know.
been in survival mode for so long that you physically can't do anymore.
Can't. And I worked for a while in tech, in corporate, and doing consulting, and the rate of burnout was so high, as I'm sure you know, and with neurodivergent folks, it's even higher.
Mhm.
And everything you're saying speaks to that. And I also see, I felt this at one point, but I also see like there's a lot of isolation in that experience where women
Mhm.
feel like, oh, well, I have to be grateful because, the feminist movement, the women's movement has allowed me to be able to do X, Y, and Z. Or in my case, I was first generation American.
Mhm.
I felt like I was achieving what my mom couldn't have achieved. And so, it's like you're also feeling this conflict around, well, I should be grateful, but yet I'm not happy. Like I'm fundamentally
Yeah.
like there is no sense of joy or purpose in my day to day, and I'm just in survival
Yeah.
mode trying to stay afloat.
Yeah. It's like the narrative of, well, I I asked to be a mother, so I can't express the challenge of being a mother.
Right.
And when a brave soul does go forth and say, "You know what? This is hard. I need help." The gaslighting that happens is is mind-blowing
It is. It's mind blowing.
because while you may have sought out to be a mother, it is one of the most difficult jobs. There are no breaks. It's hard,
Yes.
especially when you're coming at it with trauma in your back window that you didn't know you didn't heal and is demanding to be dealt with. Um,
Yes.
it's a trying time.
It is. Yeah, that's such a good point. That's one thing when I was a new mom, I had it was postpartum depression, but it didn't look like depression. It was really, really bad anxiety.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until years later that I figured out just what you're saying. I was, for the first time, seeing aspects of unhealed parts of myself, and really the mirror that our children are.
Oh yeah, it's
It's
huge.
so huge.
So, what are one or two tips that you can share with our listener today to help her along her journey?
Yes. One of the pieces we touched on, but this is such a huge part of my methodology and how I work, is building connection and community, right?
Absolutely.
We're wired as humans, as mammals, for connection, and that's been lost even prior to COVID. And I really believe, regardless of, and I live in a really small mountain town, and so,
Mhm.
regardless of where you are, whether that's online, in the Facebook group, or in person, whether it's in your neighborhood or not, really, and it's not easy. I get, like, it requires some initiation and putting yourself out there to be seen, but really trying to find other women, other moms that you can have a safe space with. And I'm sure that, and that's part of what you're doing, right, with this
Yeah.
podcast, which is so amazing. Um, and the other thing is, like you said, rest. Rest is been so demonized in our culture,
Mhm.
whatever that looks like. Sometimes for me, it might be stepping outside on my deck for 10 minutes and staring at the trees,
Yeah.
you know, and it doesn't have to be a nap. It doesn't have to, well, whatever it is that allows you to just have some space. Those I feel
Yeah.
like are very simple, practical tips that anyone
Mhm.
can access.
Yeah. I I say that community is critical on a healing journey because, our trauma will tell us that we're the only one dealing with XYZ
Yeah,
and nobody could possibly understand what we're going through, but that's not true. And on those inevitable bad days that come up on a healing journey, it having that community is sometimes the thing that keeps you going forward.
Yeah.
Especially early on when it's easier to go back to the misery than it is to go forward towards the healing.
Yeah. Yeah, it reminds me of that Peter Levine term, your state creates your story.
Yeah,
So if you, like you said, if, that fear that will kick in and give you the narrative or tell you those thoughts because you're like getting dysregulated again of like, I'm
yeah,
alone, I have to manage alone, no one understands. It's like recognizing that, you're right, and making that conscious choice to shift is
yeah.
so crucial.
It's key. It's key. Well, thank you so much, Michele, for joining me on the podcast today. How can our listeners connect with you further if they'd like to do so?
Well, thank you, Emily, for this conversation. It was really meaningful. And people can find me on my website. It's the best place. It's souljourneycoach.com. I'm also on Instagram and Substack, the same handles.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being on the podcast.
Thanks, Emily. Have a great day.
Yes, you too.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Mamahood After Trauma. If today's episode resonated with you, make sure to grab your Unlocking Peace guide from the link in the show notes to start your healing journey with practical tools. Remember, Mama, you're not alone in this. Together, we're mending the past so mamas can mama in peace. See you next time.